loss of Italian independence in the middle of the 16th century. But there will be other elements as well that will introduce us to the idea of Italy and why the states of the peninsula are so varied in character, say something about their history and their culture, and bring these together so that we can have a view of the Italian mosaic and understand why the Italy we see today is as complex a place as it is. Before the Italian city-states were united under Victor Emmanuel II of the House of Savoy in 1861, Italy was, as Prince Clemens von Metternich said to Lord Palmerston, merely a geographical expression. With the collapse of the Roman Empire in 476, with the deposition of the last Roman-born emperor, Italy was really just a memory. It was an expression. It was a collection of memories, of myths, of historical vignettes that tried to put a kind of union or glue together a group of independent states that had grown out of a complex and chaotic situation that resulted from the disintegration of the Roman imperial system. The reality of Italy then was a fragmented place. Italy was a mosaic. It was a collection of independent states that resulted from the events of history. Some of these states can be grouped in clusters. For example, there were the maritime states of Venice and Genoa and Pisa, states that reaped huge economic advantage from the adventures of the Crusade and from the geographical position of the Italian peninsula itself, sticking as it did into the Mediterranean and being the natural place of contact, of intermediacy between East and West. The East, where commerce continued and where urban life thrived, and the West, where, as a result of the collapse of that Roman imperial system, urban life declined and commerce became much more local. There were other states as well with different characters. Rome, the center of Christendom, was defined by both its imperial memory and also its Christian present. The anomalous kingdom of Naples to the south of Rome, Naples was a great feudal kingdom almost in a northern European model. And because of the chaos surrounding its various dynasties, almost all of which were foreign, it became the battleground of Italy and ultimately the Trojan horse through which the invaders would enter and bring about the end of Italian independence. There were the principalities of north-central Italy that were characterized by the dynasties that ruled them, the personalities of the various condottieri princes and the families that saw their rule as not just the extension of political and military might, but also the creation of culture as an element of policy, the commission of art and music and architecture that would ensure these petty despotisms would survive in the collective unconscious of the Italian and indeed European people to provide one of the great monuments of Western culture. There were the republics, like Siena and particularly Florence. These were the petri dishes of politics. These were the experimental areas in which new forms of social, political, and economic organization could be tried because of the ability of the government to be changed, of social mobility, of the introduction of new men with new ideas into an environment that was prepared to receive them. The independence of these various states was to be severely compromised by events of the 16th century. This was the time when the great territorial dynastic monarchies of Northern Europe that had just recently coalesced into powerful territorial states crossed the Alps in order to assert dynastic claims on the Italian states, particularly Naples and Milan. When Charles VIII of France crossed the Alps in 1494 to claim the Kingdom of Naples, there would be then not only the loss of Italian liberty, but the turning of Italy into the battleground of Europe, the place where the struggle between the French royal house of Valois and the imperial Spanish house of Habsburg would ultimately be determined. Their competing claims would become almost the metaphor, the metonymy of the struggle for European power. And Italy, of course, would suffer. The Treaty of Cateau-Cambrésis in 1559, to a large extent, ended this struggle by providing spheres of influence within the continent, but also recognized the loss of Italian freedom, turning the peninsula to some extent over to the House of Habsburg, which would rule much of it until the period of Italian unification in the 19th century. The Italian states continued, but they continued in really only a half-life. So the